which is, let's talk about Matthew Lillard. So Matthew Lillard, well, we already know Scream is going to be coming out in about what, 2 months? But next month we have Five Nights at Freddy's Part Two about to hit theaters. I already saw it. Josh Hutcherson is making the rounds promoting the movie. I saw him actually the other day at the UFC fight. He was there. He's short and cute, but nevertheless, he a little one. He a little pocket. I was gonna say if he was gay, he'd be a pocket gay. But I saw him there, and Matthew Lillard's been making the rounds, and of course, with him making the rounds in regards of Five Nights at Freddy's and all this other stuff, you already know there's going to be a lot of comments or people asking him about his, how much of a role does he have in Scream 7, because it's been announced he was a part of it, casting back when they were filming the movie. And even seeing the trailer, you heard his voice at the end. This is going to be fun. Like, you heard his voice at the end of the trailer. So now, yes, he is speaking out and giving, and he's giving his overall thoughts without spilling too much. So so shout out to Comic Book Movie for this story, because he said that the movie's tone will be more in line with the earlier installments. So Christopher Landon, as y'all know, was originally set to direct Scream 7, and fans responded positively to the news. He found the right balance of horror and comedy, of course, in films like Happy Death Day and Freaky, which I like a lot of his stuff, and I also like Drop. So I know that movie didn't do all that well at the box office, but if you have not gotten around to seeing Drop, definitely check it out. It had like this whole suspenseful Hitchcockian type of tone to it. It definitely was a really good movie, so I highly recommend that. And one of the things about Christopher Landon, when you watch a lot of his films, you could definitely see that he was inspired by his film, and the way he sets things up and the overall tone definitely feels similar to what he's been, you can clearly see he's been inspired by Scream movies. So I was actually looking forward to, and he also worked on the Paranormal Activity movies, although I don't like found footage films, so I never really watched or even cared to get into that whole found footage thing. But if y'all like it, I love it. But um, and I was actually looking forward to Christopher Landon being a part of the Scream franchise, because I was like, yes, finally somebody who I actually like, who's also a homosexual, that is inspired, loves Kevin Williamson's work, loves the Scream franchise, and could have possibly been the perfect person to take on the mantle left behind by the iconic late great Wes Craven. Because I didn't particularly, as y'all know, I have mixed feelings when it comes to what Radio Silence did with the Scream franchise. There were some things I thought was cool that y'all swung from the fences and did some things that I thought was relatively interesting. But for the most part, I was overly disappointed with some of the outcome of where y'all were going with some of the choices that y'all were making in there, especially when it came to your third acts of the film, particularly in Scream 7. That third act was such a chop for me. And I already told y'all, like, during the sequence when the therapist gets killed in his house, I already figured out who the killer was at that point. So they were trying to set up like it was gonna be Kirby. I'm like, it's not her. I already knew who the killer was, like 30 minutes into the damn movie. So uh, to get into the story, they said like now, but because of the whole situation that happened with Melissa Barrera being fired because she weighed in on the whole Israel-Palestine conflict on social media, instead of Spyglass taking a breath and letting bygones be bygones, whatever. She didn't say anything remotely negative. Now, 2 years later, everybody all of a sudden is jumping on this Israel Palestine conflict on social media because it's chic and it's trendy to do, even though, of course, the Zionist is always going to be mad regardless of when you bring it up. But for the most part, shout out to the celebrities that are actually speaking up. But Melissa Barrera was doing it when it wasn't trendy to do it, and she had to pay the price, unfortunately, for it at the hands of Spyglass. And we already got the fans who are mad, the Melissa Barrera fans, because it ain't the actual Scream fans. It's the people that just jumped on the bandwagon 2 movies ago that all of a sudden want to be dickwads, and they want to not only get mad at anything to do with this movie. They're talking about protesting, but they feel like I need to put a little icing on the petty cake by spoiling any possible information they can get on this damn movie and post it on social media and ruining it for people who actually are not in this bubble of even understanding what's going on or following what's going on with this whole Melissa Barrera firing that happened with Spyglass. So because Christopher Landon came out, it's like ever since then, anybody that was remotely attached to this film, people, the fandom started. Well, I won't say the Scream fandom. I'll just say the Melissa Barrera fans decide to get on social media and bully and even come down to the point of threatening Christopher's kids. And so that made him step away from the franchise, which was unfortunate. But the good news is we wound up getting Kevin Williamson to jump on board, and he decided to take the mantle and direct. He hasn't directed since Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I know a lot of people are like, I don't know. But in between Teaching Mrs. Tingle and now, he's had plenty of time to be on enough movie sets and learn how to work, how things work on a set and hire the right people that can help him put this movie together. So that way, he comes at it with what he wants done to be done. So it's not a hard thing to like come up and be able to do something like that. I mean, it is hard to direct, but at the same, because I went to film school, so yes, it is hard. It's not easy to direct a movie and to get a lot of footage and film it and try to carve a story out of it that you hope that you're not leaving stuff out on the table. So in the first trailer for Scream 7, I should say it did receive positive response, and then I believe that the trailer did huge numbers on social media. Like it was this major, and even though you already had the people that was hating, people were pretty much overall the overall response. People was excited. When I went to go see uh the movie, what was it? The Running Man. When I went to go see the Running Man, I almost forgot what I went to go see the other day. So when I went to go see the Running Man the other day, they actually showed the Scream trailer during the 89,000 coming attractions that they show before the movie actually comes on. So, uh, Matthew Lillard, who reprises his role, we don't know in what capacity. I'm assuming AI. I do believe Stu's dead, so I'm sorry, Stu fans. I don't think he's coming back in the way that y'all think he is. So he did an interview where he talked about returning to one of the most iconic roles, and he pretty much said this. He said, "Yeah, they didn't really have to sell me." This is what he said in a video. He said, "It was one of those things where I got a call from Williamson in the middle of the day when I was on a long walk. And I was like, oh, that's weird. He's calling me. He doesn't call me. I just seen him 3 weeks earlier. So I picked up and said, why are you calling me?" And he said, come back. So now he said it was a shock. I never expected it. In fact, he was out saying Stu doesn't come back and the franchise doesn't need Lillard. That was so mean. And that's when they started laughing. He said, that's my bit. I've been on the circus talking about Stu coming back. It was part of my shtick. Now, he says also, Kevin pitched the idea. I was excited to read it, and I got the script a couple of weeks later. He said, I think it's great. Wes Craven would be very proud. It's in the lines of what the franchise used to be. I think the franchise was in a great place with the new team. Melissa was fantastic. The boys were great, and Radio Silence were fantastic directors. Well, I'm wondering if he was talking about, I guess when he mentions the boys, he's actually referring to the two co-writers of the last two Scream movies, where one of them is actually coming back to write the script. Which I should also point out that I believe it has been reported that oh my god, Kevin Williamson has come in and done some revisions of the script, which, in my opinion, is a smart thing to do because, as I've said many a times, one of the things I did not like about the Scream movies was the fact that when you had these new writers came in, I understand y'all wanted to swing for the fences and try new things, but in my opinion, I don't feel like a lot of those things truly captured the essence of what a Scream franchise really means, where you hear Matthew saying that they're going back to what the original films were about, that whole core feeling of the Scream movies. So it's taking it back to what we loved about those Scream movies. And I don't feel like that they truly captured that in those films. I like the fact that y'all were trying new things and trying to, I guess maybe that was their way of trying to bring in a newer audience. Maybe that was the way they were trying what they were trying to do. But for me, there was a lot of things that I felt like, okay, this is not something that Sydney would do, or this is not something that how the characters would act, and I don't feel like y'all were truly capturing the essence of what Scream really was. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that we have Kevin coming in and being like, no, I created Sydney, I created Gail, and Depending on how this movie turns out, if you're bringing legacy characters back, in that he did write those characters, that he knows what makes them tick. So him coming on board, that gives me a lot more confidence um, with this film. And so to continue on with what he said, now elaborating on what fans can expect from Scream 7, he said Kevin's take is a little more traditional in terms of the Scream franchise. This is what I was getting at earlier when I was saying that it was taking it back to basics, meaning that it's more traditional in what we loved about Scream 7. And I'm hoping Scream 7 will hit those beats of, like, the nostalgia beats, but also provide something a little more new. They're also saying that we're going to dive a lot into not Neb's, Sydney's relationship with Tatum. And last I checked, didn't Sydney have more than one child? Because if I'm not mistaken, in Scream 5, which was named Scream for some godforsaken reason, she had two kids. So where's the second kid? So hopefully this is mentioned and brought up, unless we doing some MCU type mess where we in a multiverse with this franchise. So he basically said that, yeah, Kevin's take is a little more traditional in terms of the Scream franchise, and I think people are going to be excited. I hope they are. Early on, testing has been through the roof, which is thrilling. I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm hoping that, with the testing of the film, that we don't get any leaks that come out in regards of, like, spoilers or whatever the case is, or that people will see enough of the film where maybe y'all can cut it at who Ghostface is and move on. But according to Critical Overlord, he already knows who the killer is, um, who Ghostface is, I should say. So, but I'm glad he didn't reveal who it is, because it's like, some of us actually like that element of surprise. Some of us want to have that experience of going into the theater and doing the whole Scooby Doo thing and figuring out, you know, trying to pay attention to the story and then figure out who the killer or ers might be. So the newest Scream movies, they said, did a great job of putting the slasher franchise back on the map while focused on a fresh cast. However, fans are always eager to see some returning faces join them. But the next installment, likely to be heavy on nostalgia, it should hit all the right notes. There's also a huge amount of intrigue surrounding how these long dead characters return, with his name is Stewart, resurrection one of the biggest question marks as of now, because I don't know how you survive, like I said, when them big old fat back TVs to the face. Like, them shits is heavy. So if you think that carrying them things is heavy, now if you got hit upside the head, or one was dropped on your head or your face, you would not be able to survive that unless you be looking like the guy on the cover of the Mad Max magazine, I mean, the what does it call it? I said Mad Max magazine. The Mad magazine, where he, like, his face is so big and round and shaped like a cookie. So, for those who are not familiar with the movie is about, is basically the synopsis, when a new Ghostface killer emerges in a quiet town where Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, has built a new life, her darkest fears are realized as her daughter, played by Isabel May, and whose name is Tatum, becomes the next target. Determined to protect her family, Sidney must face the horrors of her past to put an end to the bloodshed once and for all. And we also have Joe McHale in the movie as Sidney's husband, Mark Evans. Scott Foley, who played Sidney's brother, Roman Bridger, in Scream 3, is also back, alongside franchise veterans Matthew Lillard and David Arquette. And so yeah, and with all those characters being dead, we're all trying to speculate how do they bring them back. But also we have Anna Camp, Mark Consuelos, Ethan Embry, Asa Gurman, which we didn't see a lot of them in the trailer. Like, I don't recall seeing Asa Gurman. I didn't see Ethan Embry. Jimmy Tatro and Michelle Randolph, they were in the opening. Sam Rector, who I believe plays Anna Camp's son, we didn't really see him. We did see Celeste O'Connor. We did see McKenna Grace. And of course, we saw two of the core four that's in it. And the rumor is that one or maybe both of them might get gutted. So we'll see how that all works out when the film hits theaters. So now